My name is Mark Boone. I'm Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Fordham Christian College. This is a video abstract for my article Plutarch and Augustine on the Battlestar Galactica, rediscovering our need for virtue and grace through modern fiction. This article was published in the journal Imaginatio et Ratio, a journal for theology and the arts, in the year 2013. It was probably, of all the articles I've written, the funnest to write, because it concerned philosophy, theology, and science fiction with cool spaceships, which are three of my favorite things. Now, the best place to approach this sort of topic is probably Plato's Republic. In the Republic, Socrates expresses some concerns with fiction that has bad behavior in it, particularly when sin and vice are the activities of the protagonists of fiction, with whom the audience identifies, whom the audience supports, whom we root for when we experience this sort of fiction. When we read about it, or in contemporary terms, we watch it on television. When sin and vice are portrayed in a good light, or when we are seduced by the fiction into supporting them, it corrupts the soul. This, at least, is what Socrates fears. However, Plutarch, several hundred years later, the Roman philosopher, made a nice reply to Plato, and he explains in his book How a Young Man Should Study Poetry, how even this sort of fiction can be edifying if we study it with discernment. And he explains various reasons that it can be edifying, and ultimately how it supports the same goal that Plato in his Republic was supporting. The goal of virtue, the goal of promoting virtue. Now, the reimagined Battlestar Galactica is such a piece of fiction. It is considerably short on virtue, at least as compared to the original Battlestar Galactica from a couple of decades earlier. It's nevertheless delightful science fiction, and this presents a problem, or at least a situation. And in my article I explain the challenge from Plato, the reply on behalf of such fiction from Plutarch, and I apply it to the reimagined Battlestar Galactica. Now, there's another layer to this analysis, which I have explained, responding to St. Augustine, the medieval philosopher and the church father. St. Augustine, in his book The City of God, considers the ancient philosophical quest for virtue and explains why it will not bring us to happiness. Our own efforts to be virtuous are insufficient. The world has been so corrupted by sin that we are in need of not only virtue, and it is not only necessary that we put forth every effort to be good, to be virtuous, but we are also in dire need of grace. We need God's help. This is Augustine's response to ancient philosophers, and considering Plutarch in that light, it becomes apparent that you have the option for a theological defense of this sort of fiction as well. And so I apply Augustine's analysis to Battlestar Galactica in my article, and explain the evidence that is there that grace is needed no less than virtue is needed. In fact, grace is needed precisely because virtue is needed, and we human beings are so bad at being virtuous. And how this is all illustrated by this sort of delightful but problematic contemporary fiction. The same analysis could, I suspect, be applied to various other pieces of contemporary delightful science fiction and other sorts of dramas. Now, this article is available on my academia.edu profile. Find Mark J. Boone, PhD, on academia.edu. The pagination here will not be the same as it is in the published edition. The published edition should be available from the journal's website, or perhaps through scholarly journal databases at a university library. I'd recommend this article for anyone interested in Socrates' critique of Socrates' critique of, let's say, scandalous fiction, a fiction that has bad behavior in it, and in interesting responses, because there are at least two available. one from Plutarch and one I developed borrowed from Augustine. Thank you for watching this video abstract. Happy reading.